Welcome to Hack Your API First, and in this final module we're going to talk about working with SSL encrypted traffic. As I touched upon earlier on in this course, when we're dealing with mobile apps, rich client apps, the security implementation of how the app talks over the web is far more obfuscated than what we're used to seeing in the browser. So for example, I spoke about how when we have a browser, we can see the URL that we're talking to. We can see whether it's been served over HTTPS. We can see a padlock if it is. We can click on that padlock and we can see certificate information. It's very, very easy to discover if the communication is being made over a secure channel. The fact it's more difficult to immediately observe this in a mobile app is one thing, but it's compounded by the fact that the devices that these rich client apps that we've been talking about tend to be installed on are also highly mobile. Phones are the obvious ones. And what I mean by this is that A, it's harder to see whether the app is communicating securely, but B, you're more likely to be in an environment where the transport layer is at risk. You're more likely to be on, say, a rogue wireless network without even knowing it. So HTTPS is more important than ever, yet it's less visible than ever. Let's just do a quick recap of why SSL is important. I talk a lot about SSL, and one of the things I try to do is move away from the sole focus on it being about encryption. And I normally talk about three separate things. Authenticity, so knowing who it is that we're having the communication with, and we can ascertain that either as individuals or programmatically by inspecting the certificate that's provided by the site we're connecting to. Integrity, that is, we can have confidence that the data we're receiving or sending hasn't been modified. And for an example of why that's a risk, go and check out the Hack Yourself First course where I inject a keylogger into a login form that posts securely but is loaded insecurely. And confidentiality, that's the encryption bit. That's what we normally think of with encryption in terms of keeping private information away from prying eyes. So remember, we're using it for these three different reasons. Now, what does SSL not do for us? Well, there's a few things. So clearly, it doesn't give us any protection on the server itself. Once the payload has been decrypted, or conversely, before it has been encrypted, SSL gives us no protection. It doesn't mean that things like secure cryptographic storage are not important. Same goes for the client. It doesn't matter that you've been communicating over an HTTPS connection if the client is not storing and handling the data securely. And to that effect, and this is what really leads us into the module we're about to see, SSL gives you no assurance that once someone actually controls the client, they're not manipulating the data. If you can install your own certificate on the client, then SSL provides no protection whatsoever from you interpreting and modifying the requests it makes backwards and forwards with the server. And that's exactly what we're going to look at in this module. And more specifically, we're going to look at insufficient implementations of SSL. And we're going to look at real-world examples where it's done poorly, as well as examples where it's done well. And we'll see how the apps behave differently based on the chosen implementations of SSL. Let's move on and take a look at that. And we're going to start by understanding how we can use Fiddler to mount a man-in-the-middle attack on our own connection.